Ready? Okay, great. Welcome everyone to the May 18th, 2026 meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee. My name is Alec Militic and I am the chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. The meeting is called to order at 6:34 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, seen quite a few. You can raise any question or comment that you may have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you may raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. We will need a volunteer to take minutes tonight. If you are able to take minutes, please let us know. Thanks, James. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brian will conduct the roll call.
Thanks, Alec. Committee members, will they call your name, please indicate that you're present. Tyler the Thigh. Joan Beck will not be with us this evening. Liz Burr. Don't see Liz. Eric Vogel.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra Lepton.
Here.
Thank you. Alec Miller.
Present.
Thank you. Rick Schmitz.
Present.
Thank you. Steve Perez will not be with us this evening. Will Perry. Don't see Will. Samir Thani.
Present.
Thank you. James Spear.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Weinstein will not be with us this evening. Judy Sal. Thank you. We do not have a quorum yet, but if one more member joins us, then we will have it.
Okay. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The meetings from the April 20th, 2026 meeting are being drafted. They will be distributed when ready. I'll just quickly go over the ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you may speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you may speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information such as an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Great, thanks. So with that, we'll get into this evening's agenda. It's quite long, so I do want to be conscious of time, but I think some of the agenda items that we have on here, we can go through pretty quickly. The first item on the agenda, as I mentioned at last week's full board meeting and then at last month's committee meeting, is that we have HPD attending next month's Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting. So it's not every month that they come and present about affordable housing to us. So I think that we can use this opportunity this evening to kind of talk about things that we want to hear from them Because they are going to prepare a presentation for us, but they are open to tailoring it to our needs and to things that we want to learn about. So I'll open it up to the committee if there's anything that we in particular want to hear from HPD. Let's get it done. That way we can share with them our questions and our thoughts ahead of time, so that way they can come prepared to answer some of the things that we have concerns about. I'll start off personally. I'm curious to hear more about HPD's advancements towards deeper affordability. It's something that we've spoken about a lot. Something that we've spoken about with regard to another agenda item this evening, the 30th Street Shelter, in which we want to see truly deeply affordable housing that accommodates people between 0 to 30% AMI. I'm not really sure about numbers as it pertains to our community district. Maybe some of the people working on the housing work can attest to that, but I'm more curious about their overall citywide strategy to sort of realize deeper affordable housing opportunities in the city. And I wonder if new elected officials and new mayoral administration and leadership there has made that clear to HPD as they continue to do their great work. So that's something that I'd like to hear more about from them. Anyone else?
I'd like to know more about HPD's granting and financial funding programs to see if they have more plans to support affordable housing or people with low income.
Great. Anyone else?
I just want to know what is in their toolbox, and what are the avenues that they can use to leverage they can pull to make affordable housing, whether, you know, how it works with developers or existing properties on sites.
Great question.
I have my persistent one, which is how do we ensure that affordable housing remains in the hands of people in need?
Great question.
And you know, what programs do they have to ensure that we have a limited number of affordable housing units? And it's unclear how many are actually occupied by people in need. And I know that that's conflating two things, the affordable housing and stabilization.
Sure.
But I don't know if they consider, where, you know, obviously HPD manages stabilization.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yes,
I'm curious if they are gonna be able to utilize the ballot questions, the affordable housing ballot questions that passed last year. I'm curious if that changes anything in their toolbox or that changes their plans for, you know, the future.
Good question.
I have a question for you. You said that HPD, they deal with rent stabilization.
As far as I know,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know. I just was, it was a DHCR. Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
anything about
I
it.
don't know, yeah,
But could you
yeah,
find out what HPD does? I hate to ask it in the most
yeah.
basic.
Well, they're coming next month.
Yeah, I know. I, you know, I have no questions, but I really don't know what they do.
So if they can also give us sort of an introduction,
Yeah.
maybe. Great, and it would also be really great to hear if they can tailor any of this to our community district, right? If there's any way that they can relate to our concerns and whatever else they're gonna present to us about. Just as much as they can relate it to community district 6. Great. I'm looking forward to them coming next month. I've been trying to get in contact with them since September, so Brian did a great job using his connections at HPD to get in touch with them, so really looking forward to them coming to.
And do they have any specific topics which they really want to share with us?
They have a standard presentation that they show to community boards and to other community groups, I guess. But as far as I'm aware, they are more than happy to accommodate our requests. So I'm sure that they're going to be able to address some of the things that we brought up this evening. And whatever other questions we may have as it relates to what they show us or what they don't show us, I'm sure that they'll make a best effort to answer our questions.
I mean, I have one other small one, just, to your point around HPD and looking at building violations. So I think when they investigate violations, generally the tenant is in the building or is on premises during the inspection, but the landlord is not. And just what are the opportunities for landlords to actually be present during inspections as well and get notified?
Interesting. Great. Well, I think we have a lot of great stuff that we can share with them this week. Cool. Thanks, everyone. That was great. So I think we can move on to the next agenda item. The continued discussion of fiscal year 2028 statement of district needs for housing, land use, and economic development. Brian, if you want to pull up,
Sure, so
I'll let you take it.
pull up, I know a couple of committee members have, some thoughts. Steve Jones, of course, I'm gonna hear, today, but, I know I circulated these sort of late before tonight's meeting. So. So, we already, decided on affordable housing creation as the, top issue in the district. And, we're asked, to expound upon, why we made this choice. Now, this here is the, text that we used, most recently. So we submitted this last year. About, the disappearance of affordable housing from the district. So reference to the Housing Security and Tenant Protection Act. And, I have that, rent stabilized housing. Being the most effective measure of preserving existing affordable housing. And CV6 requests the development of new low-income and moderate-income housing in the district. Over the last 15 years, a loss of Mitchell Lama, the loss of rent controlled and regulated housing. Has led to 13.7% of rental going to be less than 8%. And then to put that into some perspective, AMI for New York City for a three-person family is $145,000. So 80% of that would be $16,600. And according to the census, the 2024 income in New York City was $76,577, and per capita income of $50,776. In addition, 20.6% of renters are rent burdened in the district, and 64.8% of low-income renters in the district are severe. So, in order to support and retain our existing population and promote economic diversity, we call upon the city to provide new for reclaimed low and moderate income housing in the district.
And this was last year's statement, correct?
Um,
Okay,
So, I was looking for. All of this. So. Well, so this is the full statement that we submitted to 2027 fiscal year. And-
Sorry? Brian, if you don't mind speaking up, the
Oh, I'm
members of
sorry.
the audience can hear.
Yeah, so I was just saying, this is the. Oh, no change, no apologies. Well, we will- okay. So I was just saying, this is the entire statement, district news that was submitted, it's on our website, on our budget and governmental affairs committee page.
This was last year's, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this shows you, what we submitted in the county. For 2027. So, yeah, so you can see here, this is the text
Okay,
that I just read off.
okay,
So yes, that is the blurb that we submitted last year. Of course, we can make revisions to that.
I think we'll probably have to make revisions to the text.
Yeah, and, sorry, I was just trying to find precisely where the document. Steve Means. So yes, so this is the revised, Steve's suggestion. So. do
Can you
want-
show, I don't know if you're showing it.
Oh. I'm sorry.
It's so much easier with two monitors, I know.
Yes, my apologies, better. We got that, the Word document. I thought I would show. So, you can see here Steve's suggestions, so he
Okay.
recommends modifying it to affordable housing is disappearing from CP6. And demand continues to increase. The Stuyvesant Town and Peter Cooper Village complex has approximately 11,200 units of rent stabilized housing, which account for half of all rent stabilized units in CP6. However, nearly 40% of these units were converted to market rate prior to 2009. It wasn't until 2011 that the New York State Court of Appeals decision in Roberts et al. Versus Tishman's Fire Properties restored these units to rent stabilization. The prices for Roberts units are much closer to market rate and cannot be considered affordable housing. Besides, Stuytown Village, since 2007, 37% of rent stabilized units, nearly 6,700 units have been lost in CP6. There are only 6,290 units of subsidized housing, Mitchell Lama, J51, multi-family program, etc. CP6. Therefore, the total units of affordable housing district is approximately 24,350, or less than 24% of the total housing stock. New affordable housing development has not kept pace with the loss of rent stabilized units, and the majority of new construction in the district is ultra luxury housing. 2025, 70% of all housing in CD6 was market rate. As of February 2026, the median market rate for an apartment in Manhattan reached a record high of $5,000 per month, marking a 6% annual increase. 6% drop in inventory and intense demand. This is the first time the median rent has hit this threshold, with non-doorman, one bedrooms averaging over $4,100. The lack of affordable housing has contributed to a sharp rise in New York City shelter population, with nearly 90,000, including tens of thousands of children residing in shelters each night, 2024, 2026. A significant increase from approximately 50,000 individuals in 2021, demonstrating a sustained rise in homelessness. We call on the city to invest in new affordable housing production, particularly for those most at risk of homelessness, including supportive housing and other deeply subsidized models targeting individuals and households earning between 0 to 30% of the area.
So this was the language that Steve used to include for this year's, okay.
Yeah, so as you can see, he included much more recent statistics.
Yeah, it reflects all the work that he and Shreya and Sandra and Liz have been doing recently, so I think that this is great. And this would replace the last year's language, okay.
So, the committee's comfortable with that. And then I know, Joan had a couple of, good questions, prompts, that she shared as well, which I circulated.
Okay. Questions related to,
to the, district league statement.
okay,
So what they do. So Joan, asked why we use, 80% AMI as benchmark.
benchmark, okay,
And then, she says, why is there a disconnect? Since to explain that, you can tie, two things together. An average rent of $5,000 a month, most New Yorkers cannot afford monthly rentals, which are the majority of our houses.
okay. I'm not sure about the answer to the question why we use 80% AMI as a benchmark, but this is in relation to last year's
Right.
comment, so maybe that's probably something that we can talk about as a committee, which benchmark we want to use. I'm curious to know what benchmark HPD would use in this case. I don't know if they would use 80 or 60% or whatever. And then the other one, why is there a disconnect between HPD numbers and the census? That is also a really good question. According to HPD, the 2025 AMI. Oh, because it looks like it uses different years. It looks like it uses 2025 and 2024. That's just my guess. We can also ask, I think, HP about data sources and where they get their data and how they use that. I see a question.
Yeah, question. I once talked about the housing, like why it's all get billed at market rate to an election candidate. And they're like, well, like what happened in my block when the hospital closed. The hospital was closed, and instead of turning it into affordable housing or any sort of reform on it, it just got to turn into luxury housing. And my feeling is like, it's like, we can have more funding for affordable housing, but I think developer, as long as it's not sitting on land, the developer gets to choose whether they get to negotiate for affordable housing and how much. And I think there's gonna be something else out there with affordable housing, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you bring up a good point saying that developers kind of get to choose what kind of housing they want to develop. But I think with our statement of district needs statement for fiscal year 2028, I think what we're trying to get at is to encourage HPD to support more affordable housing, right? They can subsidize and help developers realize different ways that they can provide affordable housing on their development on privately owned properties. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to get at with our statement of district needs for next year, or for next fiscal year rather.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that's a great point. And I think that's something else that we can talk about with HPD when they come next month, is how they're able to help private applicants support more affordable housing. Okay, great. Brian, so what are the next steps now that we have a draft? Do we need to circulate it to the committee? When do we need to vote on this? When does the language need to be finalized?
So the goal, is to be able to vote, on the entire, section of district needs. In the fall.
Okay,
But I know, as Steve said, in full board, he's hoping as many committees as possible and get to that stage before we break.
before, yeah, by next month, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We have another meeting next month, obviously. So as much as we're able to accomplish by then, would be helpful. I don't know, if the committee has any additional thoughts on Steve's recommendations. Would you like, more time to digest?
Yeah,
it?
I mean, I think it makes sense. We can't vote on it tonight because we don't have a quorum, so it wouldn't get passed anyway. So I think the best thing we can do is vote on it in June. That way, when we return from summer break as a full board in September, we can vote on it then as a full board and still meet that timeline. So I think it allows us maybe extra month as a committee to review the language, and if we learn anything between now and then, to add more information to it as we see necessary. But I think what Steve wrote is really great. I think it's great bones, and then we can go from there and vote on it as a committee next month.
And then,
I see Sandra has a question.
Yeah, about the statement, and the 0 to 30%. And I find that a little concerning, because it's so low that it eliminates a significant part of the population. So it's like, how do we get to there? How about 0 to 50%? Which seems like it addresses a more of the working population.
Right.
So that's my concern.
Yeah, so we can I think we can talk about that, and make that edit to the statement of district needs. I don't know why Steve included that in there. It doesn't seem like there's a rationale or justification behind why that was included there. So I think maybe we can support our statement with a little bit more information, some more facts, because there is no word or character limit to these as far as.
no, there isn't.
So it can be as long as we want it.
And the section also, it's up to the committee if they want to include this, but they can expound upon needs for healthcare facilities, needs for elderly New Yorkers, needs for homeless New Yorkers, or needs for health.
Great.
Those are options.
Okay. Great. So I think that's a good plan. I know Steve's not here, but thank you, Steve, on the record, for doing a great job in drafting this, and then we'll work as a committee offline over the next couple of weeks to finalize this and then vote on it next month. Anything else for statement of district needs, Brian, or is that a good plan? Okay, great. So then moving along to the third agenda item. The continued discussion on the future of the 30th Street Men's Shelter and proposed resolution. So last month, we decided as a committee that we sort of discussed together, and something that we kind of reached a conclusion together was that we want to see if this site were to be redeveloped as the state is hinting at, we would like to see deeply affordable housing on this property. And so we prepared a resolution over the past couple of weeks calling for that. So before we talk about that, and I guess we don't have quorum tonight, but maybe we could do an informal show of hands, so that way I can introduce it next month at the full board, kind of like how we did the layout.
If that be brought up from the floor,
Yeah, because if we don't, then we'd have to vote on it as a committee in June, and then it wouldn't be voted on as a full board until September, and I think it's just too late. For us to do this, so I think the best thing we could do is vote on it from the floor at the full board. But if you don't mind pulling it up, Brian, and while you do, I'll also saying thank you to Sandra for this great idea for soliciting community input about what the community would like to see of this site. And so in a community newsletter that the board office sent out a couple of weeks ago, they asked the community residents or New York City residents for their input on what they would like to see here, and we received about 100 responses, which was fantastic.
It's just amazing. There are lots of so fun responses.
Yeah, they were really great responses, and it was,
I thought they would say, oh my God.
I mean, and a lot of them,
What came out, it was in our newsletter.
yeah. They included it in the newsletter, and we got a lot of great
It
responses.
did, I mean, it was just so gratifying to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I wish I could, give credit to everybody. Some of them were anonymous, most of them were anonymous, but I did sort of an informal tally recently just to see what the mood was of the people who responded. And we got a lot of great responses. So from what I read, about 15 of the respondents called for housing, different kinds of housing.
Yeah.
About 16% specifically cited supportive housing, so that includes senior housing, housing for people with disabilities, assisted living facilities. So not just traditional affordable or market rate housing, but also supportive housing to help those in need. 21 people wanted a community center or a neighborhood center that can support community uses. Of those 21 respondents, 7 people mentioned the 92nd Street Y as an example of the kind of community center that they would like to see there. 19 people want open space of some kind, either entirely or partially on that site. And 7 people want life science uses that support the existing life science hospital research facilities that already exist in that area. And somebody wrote, I thought this was really interesting, somebody wrote that this neighborhood is quote, a neighborhood with very little. And I thought that was really interesting because when we do things like this and we solicit community input, it really gives us a sense into, I don't live in the neighborhood. And the only times I'm really there ever when I'm passing by from a full board meeting. And so the people who live there all the time have this really great insight into what they want in their neighborhood, what they want of the area. And I thought it was really great that somebody said it was a neighborhood with very little, because it kind of made me realize, well, this is a great opportunity to provide more for people who live there and who go in that area all the time. We also received a number of comments noting the building's history. A lot of people actually are calling for it to be landmarked or to preserve, maybe not necessarily landmarked, but to preserve the historical architecture of the building. And then we also received a lot of other comments, including people calling it, or people calling for it to be a school. We had one person who wanted it to be a hotel. 8 people want it to be either another shelter or another homeless supportive building. And a few people, 2 people want more retail uses out of this site. So it was really great insight, I think, into what people want, but it also reinforced, I think, the notions that housing is a top priority and a top concern of this community district and of this community board, and it's something that we've advocated for a lot recently. And I think our resolution calling for the 30 to 0% deeply affordable housing on this site really answers and responds to a lot of the responses that we got. And then I think with the other ones related to maybe not so many housing related uses, we can work with other committees to sort of realize ways in which we can bring open space and community facilities and retail uses to this corridor. So. Shreya?
I also looked at the census tract of this district and I looked at the census tract which are adjacent to the shelter, the shelter's location. And I found that the population of this area aged 65 and over is higher than New York City, and it may be like 2% higher than New York City. And also there are very few people under 18 years old. The population under 18 years old is only less than 10%. So it is good to consider more senior housing for senior people instead of for really young people or young families.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Sandra?
Yeah, I'm gonna comment on the resolution per se, which I think is premature.
Okay.
And I don't remember our coming to that determination at the end of the meeting. After we get those 100 responses and to divide our resolution to a very small part of the population, sort of disregards everything that got said in those. And I think it needs the discussion not to be determined as the main focus
I don't
of the
know,
resolution.
I'm
The
confused.
0 to 30% becomes the main focus of the resolution.
Right,
That seems premature to me.
okay,
Okay, and so, and I disagree with it in terms of the incredible creativity of those responses. Should just point this an aging population, all kinds of things about outreach. We don't want to just shut the door and say we're dealing with one part of the population and nothing else, and et cetera, et cetera. So I want to say this should be tabled. And
Well-
it should, wait, let me finish. My understanding was we're opening it to discussion, not that we'd already come up with a resolution. Did I miss something here? Somebody needs to help me on that.
we're not voting on this resolution because.
No,
we
but
don't
I
have
don't remember
quorum.
we even came to the point of saying, here's the kind of resolution we're gonna be working with. I had thought that we were coming here in this meeting to have that discussion, not to have a determination of it already, as if that was our position. So I
Sure,
find that trouble.
so what would you propose that we include in
Well,
in a draft
It's a
resolution?
question that we need to discuss, and I assume some of the participants here would be in that also.
Okay,
There, I think about, from what I read, about a housing development, which comes across all kinds of economic, not the high, I have my own, you know, knee jerk about the market rate, the really, high level income, but, to have really diverse housing, to have a community space, to have an internal or gardens on the roof, that, I mean, it was so, the responses were so creative in terms of how you could take that space, which I assume is going to the river, right, or right to
no,
the highway. Does it go to the?
no, the lot doesn't go that far.
Where does the lot go? Just to the building?
To the entire building is the lot.
Oh, it's only the building, okay.
Yeah, there's a parking lot behind it, but that's associated with, I think, NYU.
Okay, all right. But in terms of the diversity that could be represented in that building, in terms of it representing either age base, economic base, creative base, that, oh, let's have artist space, oh, that's really, and, you know, there was all kinds of things that we simply don't have in the community that come to represent potential. And so, so when you ask what exactly, well, I certainly would be very interested to know what the committee would think. I want to know what the participants think, and from there, I would love to construct then the resolution, which addresses a much more diverse range of potential.
Yes, I understand, Sandra, but when we discussed this last month, we also said we don't want to do that because then it opens it up to sort of more interpretation. We want it to be singularly and narrowly focused on what we want of this site. We don't want to say we want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different things there, because that's not constructive.
Right, I mean, just a couple of options that we could then discuss, but to have it already determined before this discussion, I just find premature.
Okay, well, we're having the discussion now,
Okay,
so
that's great.
if there's anything you'd like to propose, Sandra, now's the opportunity to do
Sure.
so.
And I do want to hear from the participants who are here, because I'm assuming they're here for that. But certainly the notion of, again, diverse housing, which can be, economic, but it will, you know, the economic level, I have to go back to,
Would you like to pull up the resolution, Brian?
yeah, 0 to 30%. certainly, going up to, a certain percentage goes up to 70%, you go down from there. I think community space, and then to include community space in that development, goes back to the 92nd requirement notion, so that we have no community space here. That would open up a potentially, that would be terrific, community space plus garden, so that there's an enticement to that as part of our community. That would be as far as I would make suggestions, but I would like to know.
Thoughts, James?
Well, to start, I'm concerned that site is so close to the river that it's going to force people to want to do something much different with the property than what we're all talking about here. And I don't know if there's some possibility of, or essentially a land swap where the, high-end Riverview building gets built and then we get more housing somewhere else than we could possibly put on that site. It's not a huge site, is all I'm saying. So,
Maybe where the hospital was, it's not a huge site, the site that we actually have to develop.
Where the shelter is.
yeah, we're
Where
sure.
the shelter, well, I think it is, sorry.
So it's not big. I mean, it's a decent size, but it's not big. And I also want to know what, like, is the parking lot NYU's, if it's NYU's parking lot, did they use that for development rights for to make their buildings higher, or can that be developed still? Because that would, putting up another tall building next to the building you're putting housing in could also be a detriment to the site. So there's more, I think, research that needs to be done about what the possibilities are for that building. Keeping, it is a nice building, but preserving it means no housing there, essentially.
Can't you use that sort of excavating inside in, I'm not saying to do it, but if people really wedded to these,
It would ruin the building to do, I mean, without, so it's not.
My question is that, do we have any idea how much budget do they have for this specific site? Because the money can decide lots of things. It can restrict how much you can do and how much you can change.
Well, it's a city-owned site, so probably what's gonna happen is that if the city does choose to develop it, they will probably have to sell it or ground lease it to a private developer. Private developer will be able to pay fee to
Okay,
be determined, market value fee, or whatever they assess the value of that property to be, and that probably be it. Because the city itself doesn't develop housing, they partner with private developers to do so, not really sure. But we also do have a representative from Virginia, Councilmember Virginia Maloney's office, who is here this evening, right?
Yes,
And are you here to talk about the issue, or just to kind of get an understanding of sort of what we're talking?
well, I think both,
Okay.
I appreciate the conversation. We're gonna take the notes back to the council member.
Great,
But I think we can all agree that this site has played a vital role in the safety net, social safety net of the neighborhood for quite a while
Mhm.
when it came to the intakes. The council member, together with the senator of the district, Gonzalez, also with Senator Kim Powers, have written a letter to the mayor, asking the
good.
mayor that if this site was to be developed, they would like to see more affordable housing, more supportive housing on the site as well, given the necessity for it for the district. So housing is top priority right now for the council member, when it comes to the site. And that's something I think she has been very vocal about with the
That's great to hear. I also think that's really encouraging and it'd be really curious to see if we could get a copy of that letter. I imagine that they sent it recently, past couple weeks to the mayor,
19th March.
19th of March. Okay, so a couple months ago. Yeah, if we can get a copy of that, that would be great too, and maybe we can tailor a resolution to expand on a lot of the things that Sandra mentioned, and maybe even to tag on in support of, depending on the language of that letter, in support of the letter that was sent to the mayor by our representatives.
Absolutely.
That'd be great, thanks.
I
Yes,
just have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name,
James.
but I did. You just mentioned that if the site is preserved, the architecture is preserved, that forecloses the possibility of there being housing. Is that, did anybody look into the idea of adaptive reuse? Where it could be used for housing and yet it could be preserved in some way, because it does have an important history. In our
The
city.
short answer is yes, you can adapt pretty much anything. You're just limiting yourself to the volume of that building. I think this gets another, aesthetic issues, where if you wanna build on top of it, then you're, in my opinion, compromising the design you're trying to preserve in the first place.
So it's not foreclosed, there could be housing and there could be preservation. Is that fair to say, or it's not fair to say?
I would say anything is possible. It becomes a much more expensive proposition at that point.
You have to pay.
It's also not currently a landmark
I'm aware of that.
property, so.
I think it should be, but that's what it is.
Okay, so. Sounds like, based on some of the feedback that I've heard this evening, that this resolution might need some tweaking. And we'll have to table it anyway, because we can't vote on it this evening. But maybe if we, as a committee, can work on revising this to be in a place that we think is really great by the time we meet as a full board later next month, so we can bring it from the floor. Because I would really like to close the book on this by the end of June, because we do have 2 or 3 months before we meet again in September. And there have already been a lot of movements related to the opening and closing of homeless shelters in the city. There's a lot of movement related to this particular site, and that it was announced that it was gonna be closed, and then 6 weeks later it closed entirely. So I think the rate through which the city is working to effectuate changing homelessness policy in the cities is moving really quickly. So it'd be great if we could tie the ball on this before the end of the summer, or before the beginning of the summer, rather. So maybe, Sandra, we can work offline about some other more specific language that you think would be great, and that way we can include some of the recommendations that we received this evening.
Sure.
Well, some of the great points that James and others have mentioned. Can we just see if there's any questions related to this, Brian, before you go on?
Before we began the discussion, there was a question in the Q&A, about another topic. Essentially, has the committee looked into empty vacant office buildings?
Oh, right, I saw that. Yeah, I imagine that comment is in relation to the HPD conversation that we'll have next month. And I did make note of that. I did write it down. So I think that's something else that we can ask HPD to tailor, sort of how they are repurposing vacant or underutilized office space.
Yeah, but I don't see it still for
Okay.
Unless any members of the public attending online, if you have any comments or questions which you'd like to raise, you can just raise your virtual hand.
Okay, great. So I think we'll take this offline, and we'll continue to work with the responses that we have, as well as we'll work with our local elected officials to draft a really great resolution that we can bring up next month. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the continued discussion regarding the housing study. I'm not sure, Sandra or Shuya, if you have any updates that you'd like to share with us. It's been a while since we spoke.
Put together into a Google Doc, thanks.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, and so now we've got all of it together, we're gonna do commentary on it. And I would like, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Samir, we'd like Samir to be, get involved in it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's not a question we're gonna force you. Sorry, that appeared to be, could you do it, Paul? No, it's just a little bit, we discussed, I thought you just had great ideas, and so I think we should, send the four of us. The thing maybe you can all help me, I did is a Google Doc, you got that?
I have made my comments on that.
What?
I have made my comments on.
Oh,
that.
you did?
Yeah,
So
I
how do
did.
you get it, so we don't have to keep sending, so I had to send it to the three of us got it. So how do we do it, so it's just, some ways, we can all get to it and work on it, without
No,
having to keep sending it back and
No,
forth?
no, it's on a Google Docs and everyone can comment on that. And I did it on Google Docs.
Everybody can access the document at the same time.
Okay, you know what, Tree, maybe at the end of me, you can show me how to act.
Okay,
Okay, I'm getting there, but something there, totally beyond my ability. Okay, good, thanks, so I don't have to keep sending it to you as an email, which.
no, you have already sent the link to everyone and everyone in our groups, in our group can access to that.
All right, you have to tell me where it's stored so I can find it. Okay, deal, okay,
Great. So it sounds like you guys are really.
yeah.
Do you think
We'll
that
send it to.
Yeah, please send me the link.
Get Samir on that.
you just need his email?
Yeah,
You send me the link to the Google Doc, my
And then
email.
You do that.
yeah,
because
okay,
I
and then you
just-
can give me your email address after the meeting and then I will look through it.
Sounds good.
Do you guys think that you'll have, like a substantive update for us next month?
Yeah, I
It'd be great if we could have some,
Something, yeah.
especially considering the fact that HPD will come next month. too.
Oh, I see.
So,
Sure.
so if there's some data that you guys have that you can share ahead of time that can.
Yeah.
We can use to sort of guide our conversation with them, that would be great.
Ultimately, you can share the Google Doc with you can see, because it's in there and then,
Mm-hmm.
the concentrated, form, and
Mhm.
he was picking up some of that when he was writing that.
Gotcha.
The resolution.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
yeah, and now we have finished all the data collection and we have made the conclusion. And because Steve is not here this evening and also he hasn't made comments on that docs.
Okay.
So we prefer to get everyone's comment
Yeah.
and then we get a little bit improvement on
Right.
that. And so it is, maybe you can also look at the docs
Sure.
and then
More than happy to.
we can put it in maybe into a slide or a file to share with everyone and then it's better to do it next month.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
Because it's sort of hierarchical, at this point, Steve did a sort of a general analysis of what we have,
Mhm.
and then both Shooty and Liz got much more specific in focusing on Skytown, which was very interesting and really raises all kinds of, questions of what are we talking
Right.
about with affordability.
Right.
And how do we then promote senior rent stabilized as a category of affordable,
Mhm.
really important to any kind of advocacy that we're thinking about.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
but we all need to comment,
Sure. Everybody has to take a look at it.
Yeah, and then on each section and then, general comment,
Mhm.
which is what we're up.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Great. Oh, good. So looking forward to hearing more next month. Okay, so moving along. To agenda item number 5. So continued discussion regarding the creation of a centralized public website listing available for rent stabilized and rent regulated apartments. So this was something that we talked about a little bit last month and that we drafted a resolution also related to this issue as well. The resolution is still a work in progress. There's a lot of back and forth, trying to finalize the language for this. And then Brian also received an email, I believe over the weekend, from a member of the community who had some really actually great points. I don't know if you saw that email.
And I was wondering how to respond to the person, but it didn't have the person's email, so I was thought, Brian, I'd ask you, how do we respond to that person?
I guess maybe where did she send this email to? The board office?
Yes, she sends it to the office. I haven't asked her if she's okay with sharing her email address
Mhm.
with committee members, but I can do that, or I can certainly relay any response directly.
Yeah, I think maybe we can work on a great response for her that can incorporate some of her suggestions
Yeah.
into the
It'd be great to
resolution.
hear what she was obviously motivated enough, I think she wrote to somebody, did she write to Maloney?
She copied a
Yeah,
few
it's great.
people. I didn't look too closely into it, but it was really, really great what I did for you.
Yes, the constituent did, include council member Maloney.
Yeah, I mean, that also, that's the kind of outreach that would be terrific.
Yeah.
Members of the community do that,
Yeah,
you know, then that's the work that needs to be done, so I don't know what this sort of, how you do that. She writes, you write her back.
I guess maybe the board office can respond to her and just
Okay.
copy us.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we'll continue working on this resolution
I'll tell
and,
you, the Steve's great, we've been sort of back and forth.
yeah,
The language is so tricky, you know.
Yeah.
Once you start to look at it, you think, what are you talking about? You know, really down to, what is this?
Right.
It's, not that, I mean, you have to do it, but we make certain assumptions about the meaning of what is affordable
mhm,
and so on. And what do we actually want? What do we want the data on?
mhm,
And also, what access do we have? We don't know any of this. What access, what rights do we have to get data on, vacant apartments?
mhm.
This is about, just so you guys, it's about, having a list of the, rent stabilized, and subsidized, but certain rent stabilized apartments, having it as a public list of available apartments. The question is partly, what do we mean by available? You
Mhm.
know, and what's that criteria? Is it the landlord who determines that?
Mhm.
Is there an existing list, which would be terrific to know about if it already exists?
Right,
And we want to then make it public, but, you know, that's,
it's complicated.
and would be, in that sense, would be great to have some community members also involved in that search with us. And I don't know, again, I don't know how one does that, but you know, this is one committee, but
Mhm.
the sort of picking this apart and finding, and I start to answer these questions, I think it's gonna take a bunch of work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know, do we do that? Where we, if a community member is interested, have them get, work on this, along with with the community members? What's the policy?
I don't know if a community member can work on a resolution.
Not on a
With it.
resolution, this point, we just need the information. Is there already an existing list of available apartments, right, somewhere? Does HPD have, does DHCR have, it? Right, that's gonna take some background work.
Right.
Could a community member who's really interested in this do some of that work?
Yeah, it requires a lot more research and work than
Yeah.
I think any of us really thought going into
And
this.
which, is it HPD, is it DHC, or is it?
Right,
Is it
right.
rent guidelines for?
Right,
All of the above?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so needless to say, it's still a work in progress, but
So is it, do you want to work for the apartment or the building, including the apartments?
Wait, say it again.
The rent stabilized unit or the buildings which include rent stabilized
No, what we're
units?
really specifically interested in is having a list of actual available apartments. One of the things that happens is a rent stabilized apartment is empty, right? How do you find out about its existence, right? Where is that information? It's not easily online. And so it's not the whole building. We want to know when these apartments become available. We want the public to have access to pursuing renting them.
Well, right now, the buildings which include rent stabilized units are on RGB's website. And also, if you want to know if your apartment is rent stabilized, you need to send your request to DHCR.
Right.
So that's why I'm not sure if this is open to the public or if the government is okay to make it open to the public.
It's not about each apartment's rent and so on. That's really, of course, is a privacy line, right?
Yeah.
What you're raising, that's not what we're talking about. Here, it's about the
The stock.
apartment is empty, right? And it should be rented, right? The warehouse lot, we'll forget that. I'll give you the example when Davy when he was running for mayor, he says he has a rent stabilized apartment. My first question is, how'd you get that apartment? what was your source of information on the apartment, right? Because we all want rent stabilized apartments, but you can't find them. So that was what this is about. Where do you find the listing of rent stabilized? So I tried it with Startown. Right? And then we know everything's full rent stabilized and everything comes out as $5,000. So it doesn't help you, you say everything's rent stabilized. But then they got into some language I didn't really understand, but so that's the issue. It's not finding out rents on all these rent stabilized apartments or where they are. It's when they're available, how does one find out about that existence? That's the question.
Well, I think maybe they just go to the available buildings list and then they go to the developer of this building and then they request if the empty apartment or the current available apartment is rent stabilized, to management and to ask them if this unit is rent stabilized.
Right.
Maybe we should loop her into our conversations. But regardless, there's a lot of work that we still need to do, I think, in order to get a better understanding of the issue and in order for us to really draft a great resolution to try to advocate for it.
Maybe it exists that we have to, that we don't have to go to each building, right?
Yeah.
Which would be quite a challenge.
So,
Okay.
but to be determined.
Yeah, and also you need to be up to date because maybe
Right.
this apartment can be rent out tomorrow and then you need to remove this
Sure.
one to your list.
Yeah, it's true. Great, so that was a great conversation. So chair's report, I waived my report, nothing to really add. Old and new business? Seeing none, except from Brian.
One thing, a member of the public, did put in the Q and A, just as we were finishing, the discussion,
Okay,
they said, would your committee, stand up for affordable housing on the Con Ed site, or as an example? This has not been developed for decades.
which Con Ed site, I'm not.
So, that's the Solos.
Yes. Oh, okay, I don't know what it's. This OPF site, okay. Yeah, I think we, as a community board, we are on the record, I believe, in saying that we want that property developed into housing. I'd have to look at the resolution or resolutions that have been passed recently, to see exactly what was said, but maybe that is an issue that we can take up with the land use committee again, now that the casino proposal is dead and the news of any potential development on that site has been quiet since then. So it's actually a great reminder. Great. So if there are no members of the committee that have any old or new business, and if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:37 PM. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.